For 3 decades, Meg Ryan wasn't just a movie star, she was a cultural force, the face of romantic comedy, the queen of charm, the woman whose smile alone could sell out theaters. But fame is rarely a fairy tale, and behind the effortless delight she brought audiences was a complicated life full of trauma, ambition, sacrifice, and reinvention. Today, we're diving deep into the extraordinary, turbulent, and ultimately inspiring journey of Meg Ryan, a woman adored by millions, criticized by many, forgotten by Hollywood, and now finally reclaiming her own story. Long before she became America's sweetheart, Meg Ryan was simply Margaret Mary Emily and Hira from Fairfield, Connecticut, a child growing up in a home full of talent, instability, and emotion. Her mother, Susan, was an English teacher and aspiring actress who pushed her children toward creative expression. Her father, Harry, was a math teacher who brought structure and quiet steadiness. But Meg's childhood wasn't the warm suburban dream people imagined. When her parents divorced, a rupture that hit Meg at a fragile age, she carried that wound quietly for years. That feeling of emotional displacement would later bleed into her acting, giving her the vulnerable spark directors saw on screen. Her mother remarried, taking the surname Ryan, and Meg eventually adopted it too. What began as a practical choice for her Screen Actors Guild card would become a name known around the world. Meg never dreamed of Hollywood. She studied journalism at the University of Connecticut, then NYU, paying her tuition by modeling and acting in commercials. She chased stability, not stardom. Her break came almost by accident, a small role in the soap opera As the World Turns, followed by her film debut in George Cukor's Rich and Famous. Then came Top Gun, 1986, where she played Carol Bradshaw, the bright, lovable wife of Goose. It wasn't a leading role, but audiences remembered her. Studios noticed the natural glow, the girl next door with a mischievous grin and expressive innocence that felt real, not performed. But the turning point arrived in 1989. When Harry Met Sally premiered, everything changed. The iconic diner scene, yes, that scene, made the entire world fall in love with Meg Ryan. It wasn't simply the performance, it was the intelligence and comedic precision she brought to it. Nora Ephron later said, Meg's genius was making the bold funny, and the funny human. Critics adored her. Audiences adored her. Studios saw something they rarely saw, a female lead who could guarantee box office success. Through the 1990s, Meg Ryan was unstoppable. Sleepless in Seattle, 1993. You've Got Mail, 1998. City of Angels, 1998. French Kiss, 1995. She became the face of love stories, the safe, charming, heartwarming kind. People projected purity and perfection onto her. But that image became a cage. The more audiences claimed her, the less ownership she felt over her own identity. Meg's personal life began to clash with the public's expectations. Her marriage to actor Dennis Quaid was seen as a fairy tale pairing, beautiful, funny, talented, clean-cut. But behind closed doors, the relationship was complicated. Meg later revealed that the marriage had cracks long before the tabloids caught the scent. There were trust issues, emotional distance, and Dennis's struggles with substance abuse. When she filmed Proof of Life in 2000, she connected with her co-star Russell Crowe. Their on-screen tension spilled into real life, and suddenly, the woman America believed was flawless and sweet became the target of a media firestorm. The headlines were brutal, the labels were cruel, the judgment was swift. Very few people knew the truth, that her marriage had effectively ended before Crowe. But the narrative was easier to twist, America's sweetheart becomes Hollywood's villain. Years later, Meg said, it was a good story for the press. It just wasn't the truth. After the scandal, Hollywood changed overnight. Scripts stopped landing on her doorstep. Leading roles were withdrawn. Studios hesitated. Romantic comedies, the genre she had built, began shifting toward younger actresses and edgier tones. Meg wanted more serious work, but the public didn't want her serious. They wanted her soft, charming, safe. Her 2003 film In the Cut, directed by Jane Campion, was meant to be her rebirth, bold, raw, sensual, psychological. It was a complete departure from her rom-com persona. But critics tore her apart, not for the performance, but for daring to break free from the mold. Some said she looked unrecognizable. Others called it a career suicide risk. A few actually praised her bravery, but their voices were drowned out. Hollywood had decided, Meg Ryan was no longer bankable. By the mid-2000s, Meg quietly faded from the spotlight. She stopped attending events, stopped auditioning, stopped playing Hollywood's game. And that's when the rumors exploded. Tabloids published before and after photos with armchair experts diagnosing Botox, fillers, rhinoplasty, and facelifts. Strangers dissected her face like it belonged to them. The narrative became vicious. Meg rarely addressed the speculation, not because she was ashamed, but because she refused to feed a system that policed women's appearances while praising men for aging distinguished. In 2019, she said simply, "My face is my own. It changes. It grows. I live in it." But during her Hollywood absence, she wasn't hiding. She was rebuilding. She raised her children, she traveled, she wrote, she studied, she found peace after decades of public scrutiny. In her own words, "I stepped away so I could see myself again." Meg returned, quietly, on her own terms, not as a rom-com sweetheart, but as a creator. In 2015 she directed Ithaca, a modest film starring her son Jack Quaid. It wasn't a blockbuster. It wasn't meant to be. It was personal, nostalgic, gentle, a story she believed in. People wondered, would she act again? Would she return to the genre she defined? In 2023, she answered with What Happens Later, a romantic comedy she also directed and co-wrote. It wasn't trying to recreate her 90s magic, it was something wiser, more reflective, about two adults confronting unresolved history. The press had mixed reactions. Some praised her return. Others rehashed the same old plastic surgery discourse. But Meg didn't flinch. She knew who she was. And then she did what Hollywood never expected, she launched her own production company and signed a deal with Netflix. This wasn't a comeback, this was a takeover. When Meg Ryan walked the red carpet at the 2025 Oscars, the internet exploded, but not with cruelty. This time, people were stunned for a different reason. She looked confident. Radiant. Elegant. She looked like a woman who survived Hollywood, motherhood, scrutiny, heartbreak, and reinvention, and came out with quiet strength. She wasn't trying to look 25. She wasn't hiding, she wasn't apologizing. She was simply Meg. And suddenly, the world remembered why they loved her in the first place. So what did happen to America's sweetheart? The real story isn't scandal or surgery or heartbreak. It's about a woman who lived under the world's microscope and finally said, "No more." Meg Ryan didn't disappear because she failed, she stepped back because she refused to be owned. She refused to be boxed into a genre, she refused to be a tabloid punching bag, she refused to play an image instead of a person. And now she's rebuilding her career with intention, as a director, writer, producer, and yes, sometimes actor. But only when the story matters. Hollywood once worshipped her, then it punished her. Now, she doesn't need Hollywood's approval at all. Meg Ryan didn't just star in rom-coms. She defined them. She shaped an entire generation's idea of love stories. And she did that while surviving enormous personal pressure and industry expectations no actor could withstand forever. Her legacy is bigger than fame. It's bigger than gossip. It's bigger than how her face did or didn't change. Her legacy is courage, reinvention, resilience, and the quiet strength to walk away when the world demands more than you can give. Today, Meg Ryan stands not as America's sweetheart, but as something more authentic. A woman who learned to love her life for herself. If this kind of story touches your heart, if you're someone who cares about truth, responsibility, and speaking up for the voiceless. Please like this video, subscribe to our channel and share it with someone who should hear it. Let's get started.